Welcome. My name is Dr. Mary Schroth, and I am the Chief Medical Officer at Cure SMA. This video is part of a series designed to educate the child neurology community, including caregivers, providers, and advocates around spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. This video is created by the Child Neurology Foundation in collaboration with Cure SMA. These sessions bring together a caregiver and a provider to have a candid conversation and provide their expert advice about SMA. In today's video, we will address what other disease states may learn from the SMA community to improve their treatment options and patient experience. Joining me are Dr. John Brandsma, neuromuscular section head at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and Dr. Al Friedman, a licensed counseling psychologist and dad to Jack, a young man living with SMA. Welcome, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks very much, Mary. It's a great pleasure to be here and to talk SMA.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, John, for including me and the privilege of serving our community. John, we're talking about the amount of progress that's been made in the SMA community. There are multiple treatments for SMA now, which is very unusual and miraculous to me as a parent for this rare disease. What do you think made this possible? 3 treatments for this rare disease in such a short time?
I think there's many different layers to answering this question. Despite everyone having such different experiences with this disease, each person living with SMA has a different life with SMA. They all have one thing in common, which is a single gene in terms of the root of where everything is coming from. And I think that's one thing that made it much more targetable as a disease early on, because we knew what caused it with the genetics, and it was relatively more straightforward to come up with mechanisms to give back what the body is missing. But even in that context, I think we learned a lot of great lessons through collaboration as a community over the years, that it's really important to understand the natural history of the disease that you're attempting to modify. And there was some great collaborations to define that very clearly in SMA and the different types of SMA that people experienced in the natural history. And then all of the stakeholders partnered very well in terms of the academics and the basic scientists and the representatives from industry that were trying to come up with the medications and the research trials to be able to have that happen. But another real root of all of this is a very strong advocacy community among those families that are living with SMA and people that they have connected with, to make sure that they have a voice all together in how this disease is represented on a federal level in the United States, and also locally in terms of resources. One of the things that I think speaks to this the most for me is the annual conference that Cure SMA puts on. And it's such a special experience for me as a clinician that takes care of people living with SMA. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more from the family perspective what that conference means to you, Al.
Thank you. Yes, our annual conference at this point for me, again, my son was diagnosed 25 years ago. And when I came to my first conference, like many parents I work with now who have newly diagnosed babies, I was scared and felt overwhelmed and kind of alone in this situation that was so unusual, to be told my healthy baby had this life-threatening disease and wouldn't be expected to live very long. So that first conference and the first few for me were very important in having the support of others who understood the problem. And as the years passed, again, my son was diagnosed at the time the gene for SMA was discovered. Researchers came to the conference and doctors like you came to the conference. And for family members, we're just so grateful to have the support and the interest of others. We feel less alone because of that interest. And as the energy built over the years and funding happened and connections happened between professionals, between our Cure SMA organization and with the government funding sources, energy built and progress was made. And it means so much to have the doctors and researchers join our families at the conference and to partner with them. It gives us as parents the opportunity to thank doctors like you and researchers and scientists who study the disease. And we could tell over these years that for scientists who don't get to see patients on a regular basis, it was a gift to them to see our children and the families that they were helping. So over the years, this conference for me has become like a family reunion. And the family that gets together now is larger and larger and includes hundreds, if not thousands of people, doctors, researchers, scientists, pharmaceutical companies, many, many professionals and many, many families all in the same space at the same time to be together, to support each other, and to celebrate the progress that has been made. The energy from that collaboration always felt like it was helping. I'm not a scientist, so I didn't understand all that was happening scientifically during those years, but what it has led to because of that collaboration is not only meaningful to us, but now is helping our children to be stronger.
I think it's so exciting from a scientific perspective to go to a meeting and collaborate and hear what's going on in your field. But walking into a room that's just full of people living with SMA and their families, and people who are researching SMA, and people who are caring for other people who have SMA, all together in one space, is just this amazing opportunity that that conference provides. Because even in very large centers, we don't have huge numbers of people that we get to know in our individual silos of where we're working with this disease. It takes that kind of collaboration amongst groups and amongst people together to be able to move things forward in a rare disease space. So I'm wondering, Al, do you have any recommendations of what other disease states might do to create treatment options for their community, as I know you've been involved with advocacy for SMA for decades at this point?
Well, my first message would be never give up. We're lucky to have 3 treatments for SMA, but we didn't for a long, long time. We do now. So as we don't ever give up on our kids, as we care for them and do everything we can to help our children individually, collectively, we should always continue to have hope and to not give up on the possibility that a brighter future can come. And second, to include researchers, include scientists, include professionals in the family meetings and conferences is a real important gift to them and to us to have that collaboration. Because you're right, there aren't a lot of us who have rare diseases, and kids with rare diseases, we're few in numbers in our local areas. So that we're not very visible to society. When we gather in one place, we feel connected to each other, and we're around other people who do understand. And for scientists and researchers who don't have the opportunity to meet with patients on a day-to-day basis, it provides an opportunity for professionals to see who they're helping, which I believe motivates them to want to help even more than they already are. And it gives families like ours a chance to encourage and thank the scientists and the professionals who are taking an interest in our very unusual situation. These are the ingredients, I think, that led to this feeling of a family reunion that we now have each year, and the significant amount of energy that's been generated towards this disease. I think it is possible for us to take what we've learned and to model for others what is possible, rather than focus only on what isn't possible.
And I feel so fortunate and grateful to be part of this family that you're alluding to too. It's just a highlight of my year every year to go to the conference and to engage with all of the friends that I've made in the SMA community over the years. So with that, I think I'll transition to Nikki from the Child Neurology Foundation.
Thank you all so much for sharing your expertise with the child neurology community. For more resources, check out CNF's website at childneurologyfoundation.org and Cure SMA's website at curesma.org. And together, we are all child neurology.